Then, and then this light happened. This light exploded under me, went out in all directions. You know, this is 1970, and not like I haven't told the story or wrote about it in a book I'd like to recommend called After the Light in the back of the room. But this light for me, again, I had like eyeballs. I could see, and this light spread out in all directions, and I could turn and see as if I'd had a head. But at the same time, it was layering back endlessly. I have no words to describe this, but yet I had enough awareness to think I was perceiving linear time as well as what I think were dimensions. That's what I believe the layers were. It was infinite. And not only was it infinite, but there was nothing else to this light but love. And you know, there aren't any words. If I had been in flesh, I think I would have just disintegrated in the power of this love. And it was personal. It knew me as Kim. I was Kim, and yet I was part of this light at the same time. And I said, "Homie home," which is what I later learned from my parents, is what I used to say as a toddler learning language. Remember, I was firstborn, so I'm a well-documented growing up. And so, "Homie home" is what I used to say when I was, recognizing neighborhood features. And certainly, I was home. The communication wasn't English, but it was perfect. It's what I now call a combination of math and music. I have skills in neither. Skeptics, drive me nuts because, you think if God was going to communicate and be in something that I could understand. Oh, like English would have been. But it was better than English. But anyway, so this math and music, it was complex but simple. I got to ask questions that any fool would ask if you want to know what the answers were, because for me it was like, if I'd had a head, I wasn't learning, I was remembering. There we go, I was remembering. I love words. Oh, every now and then I grasp, but I want to give a shout out to Cindy and Dave Bennett, because I spoke to upstate New York Ions this last summer, and they took me to Niagara Falls, which was one of my bucket list things. And we went behind the falls, and I was back in my near-death experience. There was something about the thundering power of that water and the energy to be behind the water. And I invite anyone, if you want to know something about what it might be like to be with this kind of brilliance and perfection and energy, you can go behind Niagara Falls and just let it, and it's a glimpse. And they had to drag me out of there. It was very embarrassing, I'm sure. It was like, come on, Kim, there are people waiting. I was not going to be moving. It was the closest. So then I heard, though, the worst thing any near-death experiencer could hear, and that's that I had to go back. And I want to tell you, I argued. You can argue with God. God will win. But, you can argue, yes, no, yes, no. I was sent back. I hated it. I was scared. I was cold. I felt like I was running around in this physical body, but without any attachment to it at all. It's just my consciousness was zooming from head to toe, it seemed, and I could not get out of it. And so I whined for God, and I'm a great whiner, and, come back. And so God came back, and not in the form of this brilliant light, but in this math and music communication, and said, all right already, and opened up a window to my right, and there was my heaven anyway. It looked like Kentucky, a state I have yet to visit, so again with skeptics. But beautiful grass and trees and a fence, but the colors were not of this earth. They were of an intensity, a saturation of color that does not, I've never seen anything like it. And every blade of grass had its own consciousness, and there were millions upon millions and millions, but I knew every blade of grass. They were greeting me, and we were just all part of the same but separate. It was wonderful, and it was balmy, and I knew that was my border, and I knew that if I went through that window, that would be it.